with Governor Andrew Cuomo. I will now turn it over to Governor Cuomo.
Good morning, guys. Guys being gender neutral, joined by Melissa DeRosa, Gareth Rhodes, Dr. Zucker, Robert Mahika, Kelly Cummings, Beth Garvey, and Peter Jamian. Today's day 254. As I think is clear to all, we have definitely entered a new phase with COVID. The fall season has brought the expected increase in COVID that all the scientists predicted. The numbers are undeniable across the globe, across the country. 10 million cases. So the rates will all go up. We expect the rates will continue to go up through the fall and into the winter. The long-term prognosis is get to a vaccine as quickly as possible, administer the vaccine as quickly as possible, administer the vaccine fairly and equitably, which is a whole different conversation, have the governmental apparatus ready to administer the vaccine, which is a whole different conversation, because this is much more challenging than the COVID testing we have done thus far. But in the meantime, we're going to see the rate going up. The only thing you can do is, or the best you can do, is manage the increase. But it will be increasing. The fall, much like the flu virus, there are certain conditions about the fall that increase the spread of a virus. More people inside, holidays, fewer outdoor gatherings, etc. The rate in New York, now New York, we're different than other states because we do more testing and we're more aggressive in both our remediation efforts and we're more aggressive in our goal setting. Our goal setting is much more aggressive and rigorous than other states, or by national organizations also. Like the WHO says you want to stay below 5%, right? We're much more aggressive than that. From my point of view, be more aggressive just allows you a buffer. But ideally, you'd want to see no one sick. So I think you can't be aggressive enough. In terms of numbers, with the focus, microcluster zones are 4.3% positive today. The zones that we now call microclusters, which I will explain to you in a moment because we have additional microcluster zones. The statewide rate with the microcluster zones is 2.8. Without the microclusters is 2.6. The microclusters are 4.3. 26 New Yorkers passed away from COVID yesterday. They're in our thoughts and prayers. 1,400 hospitalizations, 282 in ICU, 125 intubated. Overall, New York State is doing much better than any state in the country, except for rural states. We have the lowest infection rate, like Vermont and Maine. So we are doing very, very well. But as I said, we're very aggressive, and we want no one sick. The microcluster approach works. Microcluster approach is inarguable. Do more testing, more targeting. As soon as you see any increase, be more aggressive. There's nothing more you can do, but that's everything that you can do. Watch a small increase, attack a small increase. And it works. How do you know it works? Because the numbers show that it works. Broome County was at 8%. Declared it a microcluster. Additional remediation. What is remediation? Enforcement, enforcement, enforcement. Discipline, discipline, discipline. And restrictions. Broome has gone from 8% to 3.5%. Orange County has gone from 12% to 2%. Rockland County has gone from 9% to 3%. Those cases are interesting to me because they are rural, more rural and suburban cases. Brooklyn, which is a truly urban area, as we all know, Brooklyn has made great progress, and we reduced the red zone by 50% last week based on the progress. The progress has continued, and now we're announcing for Brooklyn, the red zone will be all eliminated, and what is now the Brooklyn red zone will go to an orange zone. Okay? So that is all very good news. Broome, Orange, Rockland, and Brooklyn. And Brooklyn, if you remember, there was quite a fuss when we made it a red zone. People don't like the restrictions. I understand that. But it works. And as complicated as this is as simple as this is. Okay? You know, I like to torture simple analogies. You have a house, 5 people live in the house, 1 person has the virus. Any virus, flu virus, any virus. You tell that person, stay in your room. Don't come into the kitchen. You tell the other people in the house, don't go into the room, don't share utensils, don't spread the virus. You want to go say hello, open the door, wave hello, talk from the doorway. Don't go into the bedroom. It then becomes a question of discipline and enforcement. The person comes out of the bedroom, walks down into the kitchen, makes themselves a cup of coffee, touches the coffee pot, touches cups, sits down at the table, touches the tablecloth. Now the virus spreads. This is a virus, and it spreads like a virus. It's a question of how disciplined and enforcement. Well, we have COVID fatigue. People are tired. Yeah, I know people are tired. The virus isn't tired, and that's all that matters. So the red zones are our way of saying, and orange and yellow, our way of saying the virus is making headway, and we're going to increase restrictions, and we're going to increase enforcement. I have a continuing lament, L-A-M-E-N-T. Local governments have to do enforcement, even if they feel it's not politically popular, but they happen to be wrong. Because I'll tell you what's not politically popular. People dying. That's what's not politically popular. Better you do enforcement then people get sick and people die. So the microcluster zones have done well. We've made progress. We are now announcing new microcluster zones. Parts of Erie, parts of Monroe, parts of Onondaga will go to yellow zones, no red zones. Yellow zones have certain restrictions, 25-person max for mass gatherings, 4 people at a table maximum for dining, schools get 20% testing, bars and restaurants close at midnight, which was already the rule in New York City when they went to zones. We worked over the weekend, our officials with the county executive polling cars and his team and his health officials, Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon, and Monroe County Executive Bello, and we are all in agreement, plus or minus, I think it's fair to say, about these zones and these restrictions. They are yellow zones, they are not red zones. And that's basically it. Again, it's a virus. We know how the virus spreads. And the zones are increased rigor, discipline, restrictions, and enforcement. But if the person with the virus stays in the room until the virus is resolved and doesn't go into the kitchen, the virus doesn't spread. It is that difficult, and it is that simple. We will have an issue with we had great news today. Pfizer saying their drug is 90% efficacy, and 90% would be fantastic. Federal government says they want to start to ship within a matter of days the Pfizer vaccine, so that when it's fully proven, states will be in a position to distribute it. That's great. I have serious questions about the distribution methodology that the federal government anticipates in terms of the volume necessary to do it operationally. I think the federal government has always been wrong throughout COVID and has been incompetent in their operation. So we have to get it right this time. And the fairness, the equity. Going to just private market participants, hospitals, clinics, drugstores, compounds the injustice that has been done, because that infrastructure doesn't exist in poorer communities and black and brown communities. And we already have a higher infection rate. So I have questions about their distribution method. I'm working on them and working with other governors and organizations. But overall, that is very good news. I just want to make sure the vaccine gets to more people faster and more fairly. Questions?
At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. The first question comes from Andrew Siff of WNBC. Your line is open.
Yes, good morning, Governor. My question has to do with Staten Island, which currently is at the top of the charts of New York City areas seeing COVID clusters. Are you considering imposing a red, orange, or yellow zone anywhere on Staten Island? In particular, Tottenville, the city's testing percentage there is something like 6.6%.
Yeah, we're considering, we watch the data all across the state, Andrew. Now again, you want a data sample that is representative. 1 day or 2 days, the weekends, by the way, as I've cautioned cautioned you guys, weekends are always aberrant for one reason or another. But we're watching the numbers, and any place we can do bigger microclusters, smaller microclusters, anywhere where we think it's justified, we'll do a microcluster. Remember, a microcluster is not permanent. It's not a scarlet letter. It is designed, and I said this was the whack-a-mole theory of COVID management. Your numbers go up, come in with a microcluster, get it under control, microcluster goes away, which is just what we're seeing in Brooklyn, Broome, Orange, Rockland, right? There's good news, bad news. Good news is Brooklyn goes to Orange, and that was a real problem, Brooklyn. That's good news. Bad news is microclusters upstate. But this is going to be the constant for the foreseeable future. I've said this before. Every couple of days, we'll say this place became a microcluster. This place is no longer a microcluster. That's going to be the way it is. This is the field of dry grass, ember lands, and starts to catch flame in the far south corner. Run to the far south corner, tamp it out, look up. There's a new ember catching flame in the east corner. Run to the east. That's what you're going to see. We're watching the numbers in Staten Island. Obviously, they're of concern, but we're not taking any action at this time.
Your next question comes from Sandra Tan of Buffalo News. Your line is open.
Hi, thank you. Will your press folks be releasing the boundaries for the new yellow zones, and will you be making more testing resources available for the newly declared yellow zones, especially with schools that might be required to do the 20% testing?
Yes, yes, and yes. Parts of the county will have the maps. We did it in concert with the county officials. We'll be releasing the maps in a couple of hours, so you'll know the exact dimensions. We're making more testing available for the schools and for other facilities. How great was that Buffalo Bills game against the Seahawks? That was really, that's the good news. Remember I said bad news, good news? Bad news, and good news. And second good news is the Bills had a great game. And the Seahawks are nothing to take lightly.
Your next question comes from Dan Schrack of 13 WAM. Your line is open. Dan, your line is open. You may be on mute.
Hello, Dan. Hello, Dan. Hello, Dan. Why don't we go to the next one, operator?
Yes, sir. Your next question comes from Dennis Slattery of New York Daily News. Your line is open.
Mr. Slattery.
Good morning, Governor. Just a quick question. You were talking about the Staten Island cases and the surge down there. You're talking about enforcement. If the city starts seeing more microclusters in various parts of the city, have you spoken to city officials about how that would be enforced and the possibility of a wider restrictions being put back in place?
Yes. Let's just get the parameters right. We look at the numbers. We consult with local officials. The local officials don't have any legal decision making. It's a state legal decision, but we consult. We look at the numbers, and depending on the numbers, we can declare red, yellow, or orange zone and the dimensions of the zone. When I say good news, bad news, I would almost take that back. But with you guys, you can never take anything back. This is just the news. This is going to happen. This is going to happen on an ongoing basis. The rate's going to be going up, and we're going to be attacking. When you say surge, it's a surge to us. It's not a surge to anyone else. Staten Island's numbers, our red zones are lower than most other states. So it's not a surge. It's only a surge in our mind by our relative index, right? You have states at 12%, 30%. We're talking about 2, 3, 4% here. So you can't call this a surge except within our own lexicon, which is this artificially strict set of parameters, right? They say I'm very aggressive, and I am in it. I'm very aggressive in the management. We say the person has a fever. It's 99 degrees. Now, some people would say 99 degrees, you don't even have a fever. Yes, well, we call 99 a fever because technically it's a fever. But a lot of places don't get concerned until you hit 100, 101, right? So it's all relative. But we're watching the numbers. We could, if the numbers continue and they're bona fide and not just an aberration from the weekend, then we would declare a microcluster. But then again, all that says is you are now on notice, higher rate, and more restrictions, more enforcement. I do have a problem with enforcement with local governments across the board. The enforcement is the local responsibility. And I talk to counties upstate New York. I talk to counties on Long Island. I talk to mayors. I've said that I don't think the sheriffs are enough in New York City. I've said that a number of times. Sheriffs are the main enforcement mechanism. There's like 150 sheriffs. What are you going to do with 150 sheriffs? I don't think it's enough. But I've made that point repeatedly. If I have to do it all over again, I would make sure the state has enough of a force to do its own enforcement. But that's not the case. But this is going to be all fall and all winter. It's going to be the same conversation because we have COVID fatigue. We're tired of COVID, but COVID isn't tired of us. People have to be rigorous and disciplined about their behavior. You have to wear masks. You have to stop the small gatherings. People learned to stay away from mass gatherings. They're now in small gatherings. And small gatherings can be just as dangerous as mass gatherings because it only takes one. And I can't tell you how many people I talk to, Dennis. Oh, I was just with my family. Oh, it was just with my wife's family. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not that they're purposely infecting you or nefariously infecting you. Maybe your in-laws. But, you know, small gatherings can be dangerous. And if you don't change the behavior and you don't take it seriously, then the spread will continue, and then we'll do a microcluster, and it will be a change of behavior. Let's take one more, operator.
Yes, sir. Your next question comes from Lindsay Kramer of Syracuse.com. Your line is open.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for your time. My question concerns high school sports in New York State, whether you're nearing any decision on the higher risk winter sports such as hockey, basketball, wrestling. I know a few weeks ago you said you were looking at maybe mid-November before issuing any further guidance to the feasibility. So I was curious where we stand on that issue.
The Department of Health is still looking at it. We have Dr. Zucker and Robert and Gareth here. Are you any closer to any decision about winter sports?
So I think the issue right now, Governor, is as you pointed out, as we're seeing the inclines in different parts of the state, we're not inclined to go ahead with opening the winter sports at this time. We're continuing to look at those numbers, but the numbers right now don't indicate that we're going to expand them right now, with the exception of skiing, which was an outdoor activity, and we put out the skiing guidance. So that will open.
Yeah, see, Robert's point is well taken. Can you open an activity? What is the overall infection rate doing? The overall infection rate is going up. This was Dr. Zucker's point with the Bills Stadium. I'm very aggressive on trying to get the stadium open. If you have the overall infection rate in Western New York going up, Dr. Zucker's point is it would be reckless to add more risk to a situation that's already out of control. So that's sort of inarguable. Let's get it in control. And let's get it in control. The virus, we know how to do it. We've done it. We just have to continue to do it. And the election came and went.